I'm your host, Carol Lee Espy, and today we're featuring 7 excellent tri-state businesses. Coming up, we'll feature Dr. Timothy Runco from Pittsburgh Dental Spa and Frank Petrosky from New Image Hair Clinic. But right now, let's welcome Dr. Ian Bulow from Upper Cervical Health Centers. Welcome to Pittsburgh Living.
Thank you for having me.
And the whole